So Dana White announced that there is a potential super fight and likely for UFC 300. We don't know what it could be, but what we do know is it does not involve Conor McGregor. We have an idea for what could happen here, and honestly, there's a couple things that people are talking about, but we're going to talk about it today. I'd love for you to hear my thoughts, and I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Afterwards, we're going to get into it in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's talk about this event. So, obviously, UFC 300, they're going to probably shoot for McGregor versus Chandler. So, you got to think about a co-main event. And what I initially thought of, and what a lot of people are thinking of, it's not like I'm having this groundbreaking information or this groundbreaking idea for you right now, because there's been rumors, and I understand it's rumors, like rumors, okay? Not confirmed whatsoever, but George St. Pierre versus Nick Diaz, apparently there's been some talks, and that's Chael Sonnen started it, but we know that there were talks for them to grapple, so honestly, for them to come back, we know that both of them are under contract. George St. Pierre, while he is retired, still is under contract with the UFC. He could very well make a return. GSP's looking good. He's looking healthy. He can come back, and especially if you want to fight a guy like Nick Diaz, who Nick Diaz has expressed that he wants to have another fight in the UFC. This would absolutely 100% be a super fight. And this is probably the most likely, in my opinion. The reason why I'm thinking about this, too, is because I'm thinking back to UFC 200. What was the big grand reveal of UFC 200, right? It was Brock Lesnar coming back after so long, right? A big star coming back, and it wasn't the main event. It was a nice 3-round fight. Good to see him. They could very well do the same thing with George St. Pierre. That would absolutely be a super fight. The question is, though, is GSP, does he want to fight? We know that he has that kind of, what do you call it? The itch to grapple, right? The itch to compete. Maybe he's been out of the octagon for that long where he actually wants to get back in there, but then again, he's expressed in the past that he doesn't like fighting. So there's a lot you can play around with there. Maybe it's just his competition. Maybe he's feeling good. Maybe it's the fact that his opponent is Nick Diaz, right? That's obviously no disrespect to Nick Diaz. An easy fight for him, right? So that's something they could obviously do. And in my opinion, that's the most likely scenario if they were to get it done. I've seen some other people talking about, especially with that leaked board, they wanted Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page. I wouldn't really consider this a super fight, but the reason why you could kind of, and you got to think about the UFC too, maybe they're just calling it a super fight. Maybe it's just a kind of a big fight they're calling a super fight, but to have a fighter coming over from Bellator and making a grand entrance like Michael Chandler did, that could be pretty big. Honestly, for hardcore fans, that could be a great fight to add to UFC 300, but that wasn't even scheduled according to those leaks that we saw, that whiteboard. It's not exactly scheduled to come in, but people have been talking about Michael Venom Page. Other than that, there's been like a lot of jokes going on. A lot of jokes, but there are two more ideas that people have been floating around that I personally think have a kind of a chance, not really. One of them does have a chance. A super fight would absolutely be Israel Adesanya taking on Alex Pereira at the 205 division to have their MMA trilogy for the belt. Adesanya going back up to 205. That would absolutely be a super fight, because when you think about super fights, you think about a champion versus champion type matchup going up a weight division, right? Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 3 in MMA for the light heavyweight title would be a absolute massive fight. No question about it. They're both stars at this point, and it would really seal the deal for UFC 300. Now, there is one other thing that people have been floating around that I personally don't think is going to happen at all, because Dana White really hasn't expressed any interest in it. But you never know. Maybe they throw up a ton of money in their face, right? I still don't think it would matter, but people have been talking about a crossover fight with the PFL, because we know that Don Davis just had an entire potential card matchup where it's like, we could have this fighter fight this guy, like Jones versus Ngannou, stuff like that. If that were to actually happen, that would be wild. People have been having that as a super fight idea, the UFC crossing over with the PFL. Dana White has said over and over again that he has no interest in doing it with any promotion. Same with One Championship, who has been really reaching out to have the UFC a crossover event for a very long time now. Dana's not interested in any of it. I just wanted to, I think it's impossible, but I'm trying to think of like super fights for UFC 300, something really special. But I can't see them for UFC 300 bringing in another promotion, right? So I don't know, man. The best he could probably do is Michael Venom Page. I think the most likely scenario is George St. Pierre versus Nick Diaz, or Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. I think both those have a very likely chance of succeeding. But other than that, people have been mentioning just a bunch of fights that could never really happen. Oh, they signed Francis Ngannou again. Oh, Nate Diaz is coming back. Nate Diaz, he could come back. Another thing you could like jump into the idea of is, depending on who wins between Colby Covington and Leon Edwards, they could take on Islam Makhachev. Could reward Islam Makhachev for fighting Alexander Volkanovski out of his weight class a couple times, but it's not really too much of a risk. I'm just trying to brainstorm about anything else here, really. But guys, this is where I'll leave it up to you. What do you think could be a super fight, a mega fight for UFC 300? Let me know what you think down below. Do you agree with what I said? I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody on the screen right now. If you'd like to continue watching the Clenbat channel, there'll be 2 videos on screen for you to check out. I will see you either there or in the next video, everybody. Take care.